All right, people, good afternoon. Hope things are continuing to go well. And earlier today, I talked about one of the decisions the Seahawks need to make over the next week or so. I guess week and a half, I guess would be the best way to estimate it. And in this video, we're going to be talking about another one. And this is another one that really matters, and it matters in an obvious and immediate way. There are a lot of things this team needs to make a decision on in the next couple weeks, but a decent chunk of them are not going to matter in an immediate and obvious and over-the-top way. Not to say that I won't talk about those things, but there are a couple of things that stand out in terms of importance on getting right. And what we talked about this morning was very obviously one of those things with the battle at center, if there is a battle. This one really matters too, because we have not really gotten any updates on Uchenna Nwosu in the last week. This is the last update we got from Condota, what is this, eight days ago? McDonald said there's no update on Uchenna Nwosu, but said he is kicking butt in his rehab routine. So to be clear, no timeline, no indication that he's likely to be back by week 1. And this team is perfectly willing to say that they expect somebody back for week 1 if they do. They said it about Charles Cross. They said it about Tyrese Knight. So the reality is, Uchenna Nwosu is probably not going to be ready for week 1. And there's a pretty good chance that he starts the season on IR and misses the first handful of games. He might not get back onto the field until October. He might not really be ready to go until November. And that's okay. This team can survive that, but they need to make a decision on how they are going to survive that. Please click the thumbs up button on this video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Let's talk about it right here, right now. Now, for starters, on the most basic of levels, you take a look at the depth chart for the Seahawks on defense. The outside linebacker spots, WLB, SLB, weak side, strong side. We got DeMarcus Lawrence and Boye Mafe. Then you got Derek Hall. Uchenna Nwosu out listed here. So what do we have behind him? Because I don't think you're going to get away with only having 3 edge rushers play. You're going to need a 4th guy. Even as early as week 1, I think you need that 4th guy. Now, the 4th guy doesn't have to be a stellar football player, but he's got to be able to do something. And what are the options? Tyreek Smith, Jamie Sheriff, Jared Ivey, and Connor O'Toole, excuse me. Right now, those are the guys on the roster that are listed as reserve 3rd string or 4th string outside linebackers. If you want to look beyond just the confines of the position, you could get some edge snaps from a guy like Leonard Williams or Mike Morris or even a Byron Murphy, as odd as that may sound. It has happened before. You can get a couple of snaps a game from guys like that out at edge. You could probably, if you really needed to, play a guy like Nick Emenwari at edge a few snaps a game. So there's no shortage of options, but what's the good one? What's the best one? And what are you going to do in case things get a little more thin? What if something happens to an older player like a DeMarcus Lawrence and he has to miss a quarter or even half of a quarter? What's your backup plan then? Who are you going to be looking to in the event that you need significant, meaningful snaps from another edge player? Even if nobody else gets hurt, even if D-Law is fine and Hall's fine and Maffe's fine, even if all that stuff is great, somebody else is going to have to step up and give you, I got to believe, at least 15 snaps a game until Nwosu gets back. Now, that's all just stuff within the current roster. Of the options that I just went through, I think your best bet for an actual pure edge player is Jared Ivey. And the main question I have for this video is, has Jared Ivey done enough to show that we can trust him in this capacity? So looking at Pro Football Focus here, just to kind of get a feel for what he's doing, I want to take a look at his snaps by position, just to make sure what he's doing out there. He's played 3 snaps in B gap as like an interior defensive lineman, which is kind of what I thought he would have to do in the NFL because he's so big. But of his 49 snaps so far in the preseason, only 3 of them have been on the inside. All the rest, 46, have been either as the outside edge player or over the tackle. He's played, if you add it up, 20 snaps over the tackle and 26 snaps outside the tackle. So we're using him as an edge player very clearly. It's definitive. And presumably we're playing him that much there in the preseason because we think that's his position. I don't know why we'd be forcing him to play a role we don't think he can play during the preseason of what will be his rookie year. So it's pretty definitive how we view him. Now, I will say he played way more in preseason game 1 than preseason game 2. Preseason game 2, he only played 15 snaps. I don't know what to read into there. I don't know how to read into that exactly. Maybe they thought he played so good in the first game, they don't need to see him anymore. And they felt like they just needed to get him out there for a little bit in preseason game 2. But it must be said, he played very well in both games. PFF graded him very positively across both games. The first game more so. That first game, he was actually, I think, our highest graded defensive player. Not the case in this most recent game, but he was still graded well. And the thing that's kind of interesting here is that the first game, sorry if you can hear my dogs, the first game, he was the guy who was getting it done against the run. He didn't get any quarterback pressures, despite having ample opportunity. And he had 3 run stops and 4 tackles overall, which is really good. Second game, he gets nothing going in terms of box score or tackles, but he gets a couple of pressures on 11 opportunities. And he actually mostly only plays on passing plays, 11-4. So it was very different, and he still performed. Now, I'm sure that in a regular season game against elite, or at the very least, starting caliber tackles, you're not going to expect him to get a bunch of stuff done as an edge rusher. You're going to expect him to get stuff done as a guy who can hold his own on the edge, stop the run, and just not be a big liability on early downs. But it is worth noting that he actually showed a little bit as a pass rusher against the Chiefs, which, again, I don't want to make too big a deal out of it, but it's cool that he's showing he can do things both ways. It's not even 50 total snaps, but like I said, he is playing on the edge. He's getting graded well in multiple areas. He's showing up positively to us as fans. This is not just a PFF thing. This is a thing where many people on YouTube are making video cut-ups of him and his highlights from the Raiders game showing, hey, he did this, he did that, he looks good, he can do this, he can do that. So there's something going on here that's pretty good. Here's the question. Is it good enough to say, hey, we're good at edge. We don't need another edge. We are happy, we are satisfied with Jared Ivey as a number 4 edge player until Nwosu gets back. Because whatever decision you make here, you're possibly going to have to live with it for more than a month. We don't know when Nwosu is going to come back. I don't think it's going to take too long, but I think it's safe to say it's going to take at least a couple of games. And we got to live with whatever we do. Now, theoretically, you could always sign somebody after the season starts, and there are options. If you don't want to pick somebody within the current roster, or excuse me, on the current roster, you can go sign somebody. There are players out there on the market who are just waiting for somebody to dial their phone number. This is not a definitive list. This is not a final list, and I don't know why some players are double listed, by the way. Don't ask me, but Matt Judon, Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, Jadeveon Clowney, DeMarcus Walker, Kazir White. Some of these guys aren't really edge players. Like, I always kind of thought Kazir White was more of a safety, honestly, but whatever. Brandon Graham is still out there, although I don't think he's picking up the phone, honestly, but Montrevious Adams, Jerry Hughes, Jihad Ward, William Golston, Barrett, he's been a great player in this league for a while. It's just been a while since he's been at that level. Carl Lawson's barely 30. He's still kicking out there. O'Shane Zimenez. There are definitely guys you can go get if this is the path you decide to follow. Some of these guys are not even that old. I think that most Seahawks fans would really love to have Clowney back. He's only 32. He's definitely got some stuff left in the tank. You could get him for a very reasonable price. You could start the season without one of these guys and then sign them after the first or second game when you realize you need them. But that invites its own problems. Is the player going to be in good shape? Is the player going to need a week to get ready before he can actually take the field? Is what you lost in the first couple of games going to be something you can easily overcome? What if making the wrong call here costs you a game, or you feel like it costs you a game? Can you overcome that later? Who knows? But there's definitely something you can do here. And whatever you do, it's not going to be that expensive. There are vet min options on this list. There are guys who will sign for less than $1.5 million. Even a guy like Clowney, I don't think you're going to have to spend more than like $5 million to get. There's always the trade, which we've spent plenty of time talking about the trades. Micah Parsons is the big one. Trey Hendrickson is a more medium-sized one. You've got guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, who would probably be pretty cheap at this point because that guy doesn't have a very positive reputation, and the Giants probably looking to just kind of move on. Odafe Owe is another guy who's kind of intriguing. Supposedly wants a new contract from Baltimore. Baltimore doesn't seem like they want to give it. There are guys you can acquire via that method as well. We've spent plenty of time talking about that. But bottom line is, whatever path you decide to walk here, it's time to pick that path and go for it. Because again, it's, I think, fairly clear Nwosu's not ready week 1. And that's fine. I don't need Nwosu to be ready week 1. We can have him later in the season playing at a high level and feel like he still lived up to his contract, that he still lived up to expectations, that he gave us what we needed out of him. But in order to get there, in order to survive in the meantime, we got to figure out who this fourth edge is going to be behind Mafe, Hall, and Lawrence. None of those guys are superstars right now. None of those guys are going to be that edge player that can just play 85% of snaps, and you don't even have to think about it. We need that fourth guy. I think that on the roster, your best bet is Jared Ivey, especially with the way he's played so far and with the way the team is using him. But there are other options. There are creative options. There are free agent options. There are trade options. I lean the way of Jadeveon Clowney. I do. I think that while Jared Ivey's a nice story, I don't want to put a bunch of stuff on his shoulders as a UDFA rookie in week 1 of his career. I just don't. I think that is something that we do, and then we end up regretting it because he ends up not really being able to get it done. And then not only is the team probably going to be hurt by that, but then we end up kind of resenting the player for not being able to perform in the first game of his career. And I don't need that to happen. I'd rather put him in a situation where he can just chill on the bench. I'd rather put him in a situation where he can just work on his game in a low-stress environment for the time being. So that is the way I lean. I don't feel the need to make a trade. I would love Micah Parsons, but I don't think you're going to be able to get that guy. There are some other veterans that I think would be totally fine to get. I think that you could probably get one of the Smith brothers for a low price. You could get somebody like, what's the guy's name? Shaquille Barrett. That guy would probably just love to play 10 snaps a game. I think he'd be very content with that. But whatever path you got to walk, you're pretty much at the point where you got to make a call. Jared Ivey, you're going to get one more preseason game with him to see what he's got, possibly. I don't know how much he'll play. He'll probably play a good amount. But you're not working with a lot more time to make this call. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. That is what is on my mind. More stuff later. Everyone have a great rest of your day.